In this video, I'm going to be putting wooden knife handles on this knife. I made a video about how to do this a couple of years ago. The thing was I really didn't know how to do it yet, and it was only like my second time making handles. So I figured I'd redeem myself and make a lot better tutorial with actually nice wood handles. And it's pretty much going to be explaining it to you in the same way, but there's a lot more experience going into this and a lot more suggestions. So, thanks for watching, and remember, as we're going through this video, if you have any questions, just comment them down below. I will definitely answer those. So let's get started. Alright, if you've seen my videos before, then you've probably seen this table. I really like this table because it kind of holds everything in like a vise and it's easy to cut on. But you're going to want to put your knife on the wood, try to find the best way to place it. So the end of the tang is facing towards this part of the wood. I guess the start of the blade, we'll call it, whatever. I'm just gonna draw, sorry I had a cap in my mouth. I'm just gonna draw lines around my handle so I can get a shape for it. And then I'm gonna flip it over and do the same thing with the other side. Forgot to do one thing on this one, which was make dots for where the holes are. Try and make them as even at this point as you can. We'll be fixing it later, but kind of helps, you know, so you have to remove least amount of material possible. If you have a power saw, use that. I'm going to be using this hand saw and just cutting out around it because I don't have a good power saw. I used to use a little jigsaw and that just messed up every single wood handle I was doing. So I started using this thing, and it cuts pretty quickly and can cut really accurately on the line you want to. So there's the first one right there. That's why I really like this handsaw. It's because it goes really quick. Like each one pull down, I was getting about that far. So it goes really quickly and you can cut it really close. Also, I forgot to mention what kind of wood I'm using. I was going to order some wood offline, get some really nice stabilized wood, but due to time restraints, I just used some pallet wood. I don't know what kind it is, but it actually looks really nice. I know it's really durable, so that's what I'm using, is just some pallet wood for my brother's work. Next part, you're going to be drilling the holes. Now remember, this outline right here will not be the outside of your knife, because when I measured this, that was with the inside of the knife facing it. So I'm going to drill these holes and stick them together really quick. Make sure you drill these holes the same size as what you have on your knife. If you're replacing handles on a factory made knife, then just find the closest one you can. So that will be the outside of the knife, and that is looking pretty nice to me already. And it hasn't even been sanded yet. But you're probably noticing that these are pretty ugly, and they're looking a lot different right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect them together and try to get them roughly the same. I'm going to connect them together with some pins, and then I'm going to shape them up and make sure that this part right here lines up and is even. And I'll work on the top with the knife actually in there, and I'll show you that in a sec. But first I'm just going to work out this front piece right here. So what I do is I just slip a pin through there and give it a little bit extra room. I used to cut these things by hand, these little pins. That's a pain in the butt. If you have bolt clippers, just use those. Give it a little bit of extra room and then just snip it off. It's a lot quicker. Okay, so now I got these two connected to the holes. That's why I drilled the holes. So get them connected. You can see that's uneven. I'm going to be grinding this down with the belt sander and then kind of working on it roughly, and then I'll be connecting it to the handle and actually forming it to the handle, and that will get you the tightest fit and probably the nicest look too, I think, because I mean everything will be lined up just great. I had to crack open the garage so my mom doesn't get mad at me, but I'll be using this belt sander here, and if you don't have a belt sander, you can hand sand everything, or I forget what those little things are. I think it's a power sander or something like that, where it just pretty much vibrates with sandpaper on it. You can use that. But if you don't have a belt sander, I did a review for this one right here. It's a pretty cheap one, but it's honestly not bad. I think it cost me like 70 bucks. And it's been lasting me pretty well. That unboxing and review should already be out, so I'll have a link to it in the description. There we go. I'll also be wearing eye protection and a respirator. I hope you can't see my face because I'm not wearing one. But yeah. Okay, now that I got these handles even, I'm gonna pull them apart and put the knife in between them and then shape it to that. Well, here the knife is. It looks really bulky. At least this part right here is even. The rest of this we're gonna grind off. So now what I'm gonna start doing is starting to work on the side of the handles. These pins are obviously gonna be in the way, so I'm gonna push them aside as I need to. But I'm gonna just mainly be profiling the outside. This inside, I'm actually gonna do the hand finish. I'll show you guys how to do that later. But I'm just gonna start working on that now. And obviously I have a little bit more I need to work on right here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a little black spot from the heat treating crust that stayed on. So gotta get the rest of that off. But yeah, there's like sawdust everywhere, but these are finally profiled out, at least pretty well. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna blow off everything with compressed air. If you don't have an air compressor, just get a towel and wipe everything down. What I'm gonna be doing now is super gluing these handles on. So I'm just gonna rub a little bit on there, not a whole ton. Put a lot on the peg though, so you're gonna want that to stay in. And then in the peg hole, obviously. And then to the other side. You can do it either on the blade or on the wood. Sorry, you can do it either on the knife or on the wood. Sometimes I do a little bit of both. But definitely just get some on the pegs, because you're going to want to make sure that those stay in. And I always have trouble with this side. Just slide it on, then you got to wait for this stuff to dry. It's on there pretty tight. Okay, now I use these clamps. I don't have rubber clamps. If you're going to use metal clamps like these, you can't put it too tight, because otherwise it's going to dent the wood. And either way, you're going to have to file out a little bit of something. But if you do it too tight, it might make too deep of an indent for you to sand out. So if you're using these, don't put it too tight, but you can put it on there still. If you hear wood crunching, then that's definitely too far. So I just lightly tighten it, like I keep repeating. And there we go. Then you just gotta sit and let it dry. But for this next part, I'm gonna be grinding the, as you can see, I clipped them off a little bit, and my dog is just not gonna obey me. So, you know, she's gonna be right there, I guess, in the frame, I think. But I'm gonna also have a glove on because it's gonna get really hot as I'm grinding these down. But I took the bolt cutters and clipped them off down as much as I could. If you have a Dremel tool, that would also work, and that would get you really fine and close to the wood handles without hurting them. Pretty much any way you can remove these pegs without damaging the handles is probably an okay way to do it, but this is the way I've found I like to do it best. I use my smaller belt sander because it has higher RPM and it goes a little faster, so it shaves them down pretty quick. Especially since brass, it has a pretty low melting point. It's pretty malleable, so I really just don't know what my dog is doing. Okay, so the only problem with doing this method that I just showed you is one of the pins, since it got so hot, it got hot enough to melt the super glue. What I had to do was put a little bit of super glue around each side of this peg, and then I lifted open the handle a little bit and then just drop some down there. So now, once again, I gotta wait for that to dry. So the best way to get your handle a good finish is to hand sand it. And I found this out only recently, since, like I've said before, I don't like to work with wood, so I usually don't. But I'm gonna start out with 100 grit sandpaper, move up to 150, And then go up to, I think this is 400, it doesn't say on there. These are little strips, I've only used like a little bit, so they're still good. Actually, I might have 80 grit, so I'm gonna check for that. Actually, I do have an 80 grit belt that I was supposed to use for that belt sander you saw, but obviously this is too small. So, I'm just gonna start by rubbing it. I mean, it's pretty much just hand sanding. Most people have done this before. Yeah, 80 or whatever the lowest one you can get will help get you all the rough stuff off first, and then it will be smoothed out by the higher grit stuff. Okay, so I'm done with the 80 grit, moving up to the 100. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of cupping my hand like I'd be going in to grab the knife. And so it's kind of working everything out so it's smooth to your hand. Okay, so moving up to 150. Here's some fresh 400 grit, so. Alright, so there it is with the sanded finish. Now I'm gonna get that air compressor and just blow out any shavings that there are. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to do for these handles is I'm going to stain. And I got some dark wood stain here. And after I do this dark wood, I'm going to do a cover, or a layer of like, I think it's called clear polypropylene or something. It's just like a sealant for the wood, and you'll do that after this first layer of stain dries. I know I'm a redneck because I don't have a brush, but I'm going to use this paper towel. This is what I've always done, and it just works well. So I stuck with it so I didn't have to buy a brush. Just kind of rub it on everywhere. And if you have painter's tape, then you can put it over this metal part and over the blade to make sure that you don't get anything on there. I usually, like obviously I'm just staining right on it. I just take a little bit of paper towel after when I'm done doing this. I'll show you. I don't even know why I'm talking anymore. I'm just going to take a little piece of paper towel and clean up the knife. Okay, I did not realize my microphone wasn't on, so there's no audio on this clip. But all I did was, once the stain dried, I took the clear polyurethane and just did that the same way I did the stain. And what that does is it will seal the wood and it will give it like a protective coating. Alright, well, these handles are finished up and dried now. I did notice, I think I rubbed off a little bit of the stain. It's still a little brown, but I think I rubbed some of it off whenever I was wiping this bar. I'm not really paying attention. But honestly, it kind of gave it a cool texture and a little bit of dynamic to the handle. So I think this one turned out pretty nicely. And just for using random wood from a crate, I think it looks pretty nice. I mean, yeah, it's got a little bit of a texture to it. This side's a little bit more plain, which I was kind of disappointed about. This side, I don't know if you can tell, there's a bunch of lines going through it. Really nice wood look. But if you liked this video, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe. I got a bunch more videos planned and coming out. If you like this knife, you can send me a direct message, or this one will be for sale. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter for when knives and such are for sale, or if you just want some funny, cool updates. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.